Western political leaders have come out in support of Israel, with one exception: Ireland. Irish citizens and parliamentarians are showing solidarity with the people in Gaza. So why is Ireland supporting Palestine? Hello and welcome to Roundtable. I'm Enda Brady. Ireland is a small country that consistently punches above its weight. Now it's shouting loudest about the atrocities being committed by Israel in Gaza. Are its allies actually listening?
Solidarity on the streets of Dublin, and on the walls too. For weeks, demonstrators have come to march.
We really need to show where we stand in solidarity with the Palestinians.
But it's not just the people speaking out. In the days following the Hamas attack, Irish President Michael D. Higgins said the EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen was not speaking for Ireland, and she wasn't speaking for the opinions they hold. This after she said Israel had the right to defend itself, but did not say anything about complying with international law. In an interview in early November, the Prime Minister said Israel's activity resembles something more approaching revenge.
So you don't regret the use of the word revenge?
I don't know. Israel has the right to defend itself, but it needs to do so in a way that's proportionate and in line with humanitarian law.
A recent poll suggests public support is largely with the Palestinian side in the current conflict. Many lawmakers share this view, now and in the past. In 1980, Ireland was the first EU country to call for the establishment of a Palestinian state. In 2018, a law was put forward to criminalize trade from the occupied territories. Following October 7th, motions were tabled to expel Israel's ambassador to Ireland and refer Israel to the International Criminal Court for war crimes. However, this legislation was all defeated, and the formal recognition of a Palestinian state has yet to happen. But that doesn't mean it won't. Ireland fought for sovereignty and independence for hundreds of years. Now its citizens are calling for the same in an oppressed Gaza.
And I'm delighted to say we welcome Palestinian Ambassador to Ireland, Dr. Jilan Wahba Abdalmajid, a leading voice on the Palestinian cause in Ireland. Now, the ambassador received a standing ovation at the recent Sinn Féin party conference. Just have a listen to this.
Thank you, the Irish people, for being so vocal on the side of justice, on the side of humanity.
And the ambassador joins us now. You're very welcome to Roundtable, Ambassador. First of all, how did that reception make you feel?
That was very strong. That was really, the warm welcoming on that special day for the Sinn Féin on their Ardèche during the dire situation in Palestine, in Gaza, was really meant a lot. I was heartened by that. As always, I used to be welcomed by the Sinn Féin people and the Irish people as in general, but that day was really a special, and I really felt that the whole Irish people are with the Palestinians on that day.
Just give us an impression of how you were treated in Ireland, what people say to you in the street, and when they find out you are the Palestinian ambassador, the level of respect you receive instantly.
Since I arrived in Ireland a few years ago and I became the ambassador on 2020, I never find the change of the warm welcoming of the Irish people. It always touches us, it always gives us strength that there are a strong advocate for Palestine here in Ireland. So we always felt we are special. We always felt this strong relation between the Palestinians and the Irish people, and that gives us as well strength to continue this, our mission as the Palestinian ambassador here in Ireland.
Seeing all the pictures, the murals, the graffiti, the relentless support of the Palestinian people across Ireland, how much does that hearten you to keep going through an extremely difficult time?
I mean, this is always give us courage. And because, you know, when you speak about the suffering of the Palestinians, the Irish people are really understand very well what's the oppression, what's the occupation mean, what's colonization mean. So we always find open hearts when we speak about our suffering. I never felt any stranger in this country. So we always welcomed, we always have people to understand what we are saying, appreciate and encourage and support. So that gives us courage to continue with this strength and give us hope that, I mean, the path that we're approaching is going to be at the end will bring us freedom. We have a justice cause, and we have the right for self-determination. And as the people of Ireland here understand very well, and I know that many countries and many nations around the world, they believe in this. I think this is give us courage to continue that we are in the right and the right path.
And Ambassador, compare and contrast for me, please, your experience in Ireland and perhaps the experience of some of your colleagues in other countries like the UK, France, Germany in particular, where there just is not that level of support for Palestinian people.
Listen, I mean, when you talk about the nations, there are different positions from the governments. I know that many of the people in the UK protest. I mean, thousands of people, they went to street to protest. In France as well, when the government of France allowed them to go, there are thousands as well. But I always feel that I'm here different, because all the time when there is a crisis in Palestine, when there is aggressions against the Palestinians, I always find the support. People, they go to street, people, they protest, people, they raise their voices, vocally to support Palestine. And as well, I find the Irish government goes in the same direction. So I always feel that this difference, maybe the others are different when the governments are not supporting, but the people themselves, the nations themselves, they are really supportive. And I feel always different, and this is give us strength and courage to continue that we are on the right direction.
Ambassador, there have been some extraordinary statements about the Irish by various different Israeli politicians and diplomats. One said that the Palestinian people could go to the desert or Ireland. And we also saw a tweet from a very senior Israeli diplomat at the embassy in Dublin saying that the Irish people had built tunnels for Hamas. I mean, the reaction from the Israelis towards the support Palestinian people get from Ireland, it's quite interesting, isn't it?
To be honest with you, I mean, Ireland Ireland is always consistent in its support to justice and human rights. And that shouldn't bring any other people in the world, if they are really on the same path of human rights and justice. I don't think that they should correlate with others, because the consistency in the right way of supporting international law, justice and human rights, it shouldn't be bothering any other people. I know that there were a huge issue and pressure over the Irish government, but that doesn't, because I know that Ireland do the right way for justice and human rights. I always think that they will be even stronger, regardless of all these criticism.
And tell me, some town halls in Ireland have flown the Palestinian flag. There is a motion at Dublin City Hall to fly the Palestinian flag from Dublin City Hall soon. How does that make you feel, knowing that you have that level of support across the whole of Ireland?
I always wanted to say thank you to Irish people. Thank you, Ireland, for your vocal support to the Palestinians. I'm really proud of that. I was this morning actually in the Dublin City Council, headed by the Lord Mayor of Dublin. Commemorate the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people. oh my God, what I can express about the support, the level of support to the Palestinians. That makes me very proud. And I know that the Irish people are really vocal in support of justice and human rights. And that's why they support the Palestinians.
Looking ahead, Ambassador, next year there will be a general election in Ireland. Sinn Féin are very, very high in the polls at the moment. Mary Lou MacDonald may become Taoiseach, Prime Minister of Ireland, and she is on record as saying that her first foreign policy announcement will be to recognise a Palestinian state. How important a step will that be, do you believe?
You know, in 2014, the Irish Parliament voted in favour of calling the government to recognise the state of Palestine, and recognition of the state of Palestine on all the programs of the government and many of the Irish parties. And of course, such a step will be really very strong. I know that now there are vocal voices for supporting or recognize the state of Palestine in Spain and in Belgium. I know that Ireland as well consider this. Okay, they put some kind of conditions for that, but I think now it's the time to recognize the state of Palestine. I know that the two-state solution came from Ireland, and I think that it's very important at this stage to save the two-state solution, to recognize the state of Palestine. It will be a very strong step, and I hope that this step will come even earlier than the Sinn Féin become in the government, and it will be a strong step to come from the Irish government.
Ambassador, we've had 25 years of peace in Ireland now. Do you think there's anything to be learned from the Irish experience going forward for the Palestinian people, that, you know, even in the darkest of hours, that there is hope?
The Palestinian people are resilient. They never lost the hope because we believe of our just cause. And I always say something, that when there is a will, there will be a way. Definitely, the peace in Ireland, that gives us hope. And if I can say from your program that the Americans, they play a great role in that peace process in the north. And I hope that the Americans will play another big role in the Middle East and bring peace, because as I said, if there will be a will, there will be a way for that. And we will never lose the hope, and we will continue our struggle for freedom and self-determination.
Ambassador Abdalmajid, shukran jazilan.
Thank you very much, and thank you.
Well, let's meet our guests. In Dublin, we have the Independent City Councillor Cieran Perry and Eiléan Ní Chuilleanáin, poet and professor at the School of English at Trinity College. She also joins me from Dublin. Very welcome to Roundtable, both of you. Cieran, just talk us through the support you see on the streets of Ireland for the Palestinian people.
And it's absolutely phenomenal, the amount of support. For instance, last night I was at a fundraising gig in the biggest arena in the country that was jam-packed, that raised over €250,000 for medical aid for Palestine. And that's just an immediate example of the type of support. Every Saturday for the last 5 or 6 weeks, we've had thousands of people, young, old, all races, marching on the streets as a sign of solidarity with the people of Gaza and the Palestinian people in general. Everywhere you go, it's a topic of conversation. In communities in Dublin, they've had their own community-based shows of solidarity, rallies of solidarity. We've had direct action groups who have taken over the EU Commission for their unbridled support for the Israeli genocide. They've taken over the Department of Foreign Affairs, they've taken over the Department of Transport to try and highlight the possible transportation of arms through Ireland to the war in Israel. So in every aspect of life, what the slaughter of Palestinians is a talking point, and it's heartbreaking for so many Irish people who understand a history of plantation, a history of oppression, and a history of colonialism. So it shouldn't come as any surprise that there is such widespread support, but to see it in the flesh is fantastic as a proud Dubliner and Irishman. But hopefully it's a small sign to those under the slaughter that there is support out there. While the powerful may not be shown the proper support, the people on the ground across the world feel for the people of Gaza and do thoroughly support their quest for freedom.
Eiléan, Ireland has produced so many brilliant writers, poets, playwrights over the centuries. How important are words? You're a poet. How important are words in telling the story of solidarity with the Palestinian people?
I think words are terribly important, and the choice of words, but also how we read words. One would have, I'd have to say, first of all, I've met so many people who simply say, I can't bear to watch the news anymore because it's so dreadful. But also reading what people have to say, they all say, we are not supporting attacks on civilians. We're not supporting hostage taking by Hamas, but we cannot continue to accept the possibility, the legitimacy of attacks on civilians, and especially on infrastructure like hospitals. So words are useful for, in some ways, making it clear that if we are siding with the Palestinian people, we're not siding with everything that is done in their name. We certainly, and many people who have connections with Israel, are not supporting what is done in their name. They are, and I have met Jewish people in Ireland who are horrified at what is being done in their name.
Cieran, if I could come back to you, you want to fly the Palestinian flag over Dublin City Hall. How likely is that to happen in the coming weeks, do you think?
I'm quietly confident, Enda, that we'll get it. There's a council meeting on Monday, and I'm quietly confident that we'll have the support to fly the flag for the month of December. We previously tried to fly the flag, but because of the technical requirements for an emergency vote, we didn't have the numbers, but we had a huge majority. We had 39 people in support and only 10 opposing, but we didn't meet the criteria for an emergency motion. So I'm quietly confident that we'll have an all-party support, or the majority of parties support, for the motion on Monday, and we will fly the flag as a small sign of solidarity with the innocent civilians in Gaza, currently still at risk.
And Cieran, this Israeli administration really doesn't like the Irish support for Palestinians, does it? We've seen some extraordinary use of language telling Palestinians to go to the desert or to Ireland. We saw a tweet from a very senior female diplomat at the Israeli embassy suggesting that Irish people had built tunnels for Hamas. I mean, there's been quite a backlash from the Israelis.
Absolutely. It's disgraceful that they feel that they can get away with the accusations they're making. Like, I would be critical enough of our government in that I don't think they've been vocal enough. I don't think they've used their influence with the Americans to try and insist that the slaughter stops and that we get a permanent ceasefire. But I have to admit, they've been the best of a bad bunch worldwide and across Europe. And we can see last weekend that the Israelis targeted the Taoiseach Leo Varadkar for a relatively innocent tweet that he put out, and they've made a big deal out of it, made it into a diplomatic ordeal. But as you've said, the examples of what some senior politicians and military people in Israel have said about Ireland and about the conflict in general just proves that they're not for turning. The pressure needs to be applied to the United States, who are their primary backer, also to Britain and Germany and the other backers, but it's primarily the United States that we need to apply pressure to. We need that to be a permanent ceasefire. We cannot continue to have children murdered on a daily basis.
Eiléan, there has been incredible support from the world of literary figures and also music. I see Christy Moores is going to dedicate a concert to the medics of Gaza to fundraise for them in February. How important is that kind of support in terms of, keeping the issue in the public's mind in Ireland?
I think it is of considerable importance. It focuses, it gives people a perspective. It provides, as you were saying, a kind of continuity, which is something terribly important.
Cieran, Irish people have a great sense of justice and fair play, probably because we were subjected to centuries of injustice. Do you think there's a common thread between the Irish people and the Palestinian people here?
Oh, absolutely. And I think the shared history that we have, in relation to the plantations over here in the 16th and 17th century, where the British imported people from Britain, mainly Scotland, to quell the native Irish and impose British rule, is very, very similar to what happened in Palestine, where the Europeans decided that they would donate part of somebody else's land for the creation of an Israeli state. And then the Israeli state built on the ethnic cleansing of the natives, which continues to this day in the West Bank. I understand there's over 200 people killed in the West Bank in the last couple of weeks, the highest death toll, I think, ever. And that's an ongoing example of the ethnic cleansing that started with the formation of the Israeli state and continues to this day.
Going back to the written word, we're seeing a lot of people now are venting their anger, taking to writing and getting their message out that way. I mean, the Irish recently just won the Booker Prize. Do you think in the coming months or years we will see Irish writers embracing the Palestinian cause and putting down their words in anger in support?
Well, writers are very unpredictable people. You don't know what they're going to do. But writers are interested in the effect of their words, in the justice of their words. They don't always take sides in the most obvious of ways. We have a good example of that in Seamus Heaney, who was regarded by some people as not saying enough about the injustice of behaviour in Northern Ireland. But he did provide us with a signal of what might happen if hope and history were to come together. And I think we have to have hope. We have to say we shouldn't be in this situation. There is no obvious way out, but a way out has to be found.
Cieran, there will be an election in 2024 in Ireland. Currently in the polls, Mary Lou MacDonald of Sinn Féin is ahead and is quite likely to be the Taoiseach of Ireland next year. And she has put it as one of her key pillars of foreign policy that her first act would be to recognise the Palestinian state. I mean, that would be massively significant, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's something that should have been done long before now. We've had legislation before the Dáil in relation to the Israeli abuse of Palestine that hasn't went through, that has been put on the long finger despite the majority support in Leinster House. So it's really disappointing that we haven't reached that stage already, but hopefully with the continuing war crimes and genocide in Gaza, that whoever is in power next year will be forced to adopt the resolution of recognising the state of Palestine. Absolutely.
Well, let's just take a look at some of the artistic support that has popped up all over Ireland for the Palestinian people and their suffering in recent weeks. We're looking at some of the murals that artists have put on walls all over Ireland, north, south, east and west. Extraordinary work. Eiléan, something deep inside the Irish people really has resonated here, hasn't it? I think, when tough times happen, art does its best to inspire people. and to raise awareness?
Well, certainly Irish people are in a position to see the downside, shall we say, of colonialism. But the other thing I suppose to be said is there are many other European countries who have voiced calls for ceasefire. Ireland was one of 8 countries in the EU which voted in the UN for a motion on ceasefire. 4 voted against. France and Spain voted in favour of this motion.
Eiléan, Cieran, Gurv Mila Mahagwiv, thank you both very much. Remember, you can see more discussion and debate on our YouTube channel. Search for Roundtable TRT World. But for now, from me and Brady and all of the team here, thank you and goodbye.